Good morning, Warzone kids. Beautiful day here in the Green Mountains. A little bit of snowy frost on the trees, but the driving is easy. I was thinking about spirit animals, that kind of thing. What kind of animal would you be? What kind of animal are you? And man, is that a trick question. Because if you sit around and ask yourself, what kind of animal would you be? I am pretty likely to come up with some kind of answer that is very gratifying to my ego. And that was confirmed. And, I had an experience one time that confirmed that. I had this deck of cards. They were kind of like a tarot deck or a tarot deck, whichever way you're supposed to say that. But it's called Druid Animal cards. And each one of the cards had a little animal on it that had allegedly some significance to Celtic Druid folks. And I took out that deck of cards and I thought, I'm going to cut this thing. This is a long time ago, maybe 15 years ago. I thought I'm going to cut that thing and that's going to be my spirit animal. And I gave a little prayer to the gods. Please let it be somewhat gratifying to my ego. Don't let it be something awful like a rhinoceros beetle or something like that, or a cockroach. I just don't want to deal with that. So I cut the deck, and the gods gave me an easy one. A bear. Oh, I'm a man. I would love to be a bear. That's right, that is a very manly beast. The mighty bear. And, the more I pondered on it, the more I thought, let me ponder on that. Let me think of myself as a bear. What is in the nature of a bear? Well, I imagine a brown bear. I'm a citizen of the United States. I live in North America. The grizzly bear is the king of all bears as far as I'm concerned. And so I thought about a brown bear, a grizzly bear, and I thought, what is it exactly that is in the nature of a bear? A bear is a creature that lives a lifestyle dominated, driven by hunger. They wake up in the springtime, they come to, they awaken, and they leave their den starved, depleted of all their fat, and they're driven by hunger. And they're driven by that hunger all the way up until the next wintertime comes and they crawl back in that den. And if they're lucky, they've been able to pack on enough fat to make it through another one. And I thought about that. And bears come out of the den in the springtime, at least around here. Black bears, we don't have any brown bears in Vermont, but we got plenty of black bears. And I believe that one of the first things they'll eat around here are ferns, because ferns pop up out of the ground early in the springtime. They look around for ferns and they eat all the ferns they can find. There's not a fern that's safe from bears in the springtime. And then after the ferns are gone, blueberries start coming in. And they wipe out every blueberry within sight. Bear gets in your blueberry patch, and it just used to be your blueberry patch. Now it's a patch of stripped trees, look like World War I battlefield. Then after the blueberries are gone, time to climb up in them beech trees and birch trees and eat nuts out of them. And eat acorns. Eat all the acorns. Eat all the nuts. Corn comes in. Eat all the corn. That's about the time of year when the brown bears in Alaska start eating all the salmon. The salmon are in. Time to eat them. Driven by that hunger. And I reflected on that myself. Driven by hunger. There's a phrase, hungry ghosts. Well, bears are creatures driven by hunger, and they go from one thing to the next. and they eat it all when it's in front of them. When I thought about that, yeah, that's about right. I have been for long portions of my life. I mean, I'm an addict, bulimic, binge eater, with a strong internal drive. That's where a lot of the BPD part comes in, if you want to use that language. Complex PTSD. Those things, in my case, they can kind of add up to having a motor where you're driving, you're looking for something that you didn't get. And I thought, yeah, if I set aside the ego gratifying elements of thinking of myself as a bear, the mighty strong bear, and you can think of the image of the mother bear, you know, ferociously protecting her cubs, well, that's nice. But here's another factoid for you. As I understand it, among adult male brown bears, a significant food source for them are brown bear cubs. On the one side of that coin, you got the mother ferociously protecting her cubs, and on the other side of the coin, you got the fact that what she's mostly ferociously protecting them from are being eaten by the father. And when I reflect on the family history on both sides of my family, I can see exactly why it makes sense to me that I would relate to an animal where a significant food source is the father eating the children. A little bit like old man Kronos or Zeus eating all of his children. Yeah, that's a great way to capture that relationship if then you want to start using language like intergenerational trauma and all that. You grow up having, as a bear cub, having to fend off your old man from eating you. You find out one day that you're the old man, and if you ain't careful, you'll start looking around to devour your own cubs. And so I thought, well, that was a fruitful concept. Yeah, I'm a bear, real gratifying to my ego, huh? Where's the blueberries? Give them all to me. You got that salmon? That's my salmon. Give it over. Yeah, that's me. Along the way, I noticed later, much later, when I started using words like healing, that another animal kept coming into my mind over and over again. It would appear in my writing. And for me, writing is a way that I hear from myself. Because images come to your mind, notions come to your mind, certain words come into your mind. They just come into your mind. Where do they come from? They come from your mind. They come from you. They're S. The it that lives inside you. That's where they come from. The it. Well, one animal that just kept coming up was the octopus. Over and over again, I'd be writing about something and an octopus would come in and some image related to the octopus. And man, was it critical, because I would reflect on elements of myself, an element of myself wherein I just know that I will have a strong capacity to kind of morph into some version of whoever it is I'm talking with, or whatever my surroundings are. And I would think of an octopus and how octopus do that. And I felt like, I mean, I had imposter syndrome as a human being for a long time. I got to blend in. Very common theme among those with early childhood abuse or harm, particularly those of a kind where it alienated them. And it's just a feature of childhood sex abuse that it's the kind of thing where generally you just like can't tell anyone nothing because you don't know there's anything to tell. All you know is you don't know anything at that point. You don't know nothing. All you're doing is responding. You know, that's a better way to think about it. You don't know. A young child does not really know things in the way that we talk about. They have an experience and they respond to it. The psyche adapts to it. Much the same way that I believe an octopus does not sit there and have to work out a complicated plan of what it's going to do, like Foghorn Leghorn, drawn out a chart, a blueprint of how he's going to eat the chicken. The octopus doesn't have to do all that, it just does it. And as a small child, one thing I learned was just how to become the Ben that I needed to be to make my life livable. My parents are very much, to my view, kind of hungry ghosts, kind of driven by the needs of their own. And one of their needs was to make sure that I had a better childhood than they did. And they worked very hard at that when we're talking in terms of their conscious intentions. But unconsciously, their needs to criticize and control and make sure that I was good because I was a reflection of them. If I was good, that meant they were good parents, and that meant they were good people, and that meant they had overcome their childhoods. If I had behaved perfectly and was just the right way. That's kind of how it looks to me in the rearview mirror whenever I get caught away and being an old woodcutter chipping away at the past. But that animal, the octopus, would come up over and over again, and I would reflect on that in my adult life. Years I spent as a college librarian, a job for which I am extremely ill-suited, I now realize. Just as I like books and reading doesn't mean I like the lifestyle of being a librarian. But I can look like one. I can play one on TV, like they say. Other jobs and roles and ways of life I had that I know because I'm a little bit more familiar with myself now than I was then. Those were colors and textures on the outside, like the way an octopus will change not only its color but its texture to match its surroundings. Octopus. And that image came with a lot of self-loathing, a lot of second arrows that I fired at myself. What kind of because I grew up with an image of a man as a straight shooter. You know, stand up straight and tall, look everyone in the eye, give them the straight dope. Let your yay be yay and your nay, nay. Well, that is a very great image, and it is a perfectly fine type of a man to be, type of a human being to be. I am not particularly, naturally, at least for long stretches of my life, that kind of person. To be that kind of person, you have to have spent some time in your childhood in an environment in which that was encouraged. And I can tell you right now that in my childhood, in the environment I was in, I would not have survived. That was not a welcome thing. Children are there to obey, serve, and be the plaything, the object of belittlement, and object of correction and negative conditioning and punishment by adults around him. That is not an environment which you're going to stand up tall, look every man in the eye, and let your yay be yay and your nay nay, because that got you beat to death, banished to the far side of the moon. So I'm not that kind of man. I can play that kind of man. This is not even true of the present moment. I am far more in touch with myself now, and I have plenty of capacity to let my yay be nay and my nay nay now. But I'm still that octopus. And that brings us back to the idea that that octopus just kept coming back in my writing over and over again. And I would pose questions to myself. What color is the octopus in a hall of mirrors? That's an image that just keeps coming back to me. What color is an octopus in a hall of mirrors? And that is the most excellent question, and it is a fine image. And it helped point me in the right direction, because I would think when I criticized myself for being an octopus, and I thought, see, you're supposed to be, you're supposed to be something like a Marine, standing tall in these dress blues with a saber. Look at you, octopus, mushy, not a bone in its body, changing colors to fit its surroundings. See, I have a lot of self-denigration, self-criticism, second arrows, to use a phrase from Zen. I should be different. I shouldn't be an octopus. Octopus is a pathetic creature. And I thought that one day it would be a mark of my healing when I didn't imagine myself as an octopus anymore. That's a young hunter. imagining a day when I would be different, when I would be someone else, a different kind of creature. Well, I'll tell you what's actually transpired in my mind is, on the one hand, I say, well, I ain't a bear or an octopus. I mean, I'm just Ben, that's all I am. But when I ponder on that octopus, it's still an image that comes back to me, but it comes back to me with a whole different flavor now because my mind has changed. When you change your mind, you change the world. That octopus is a different creature now. Now I think, well, imagine the extraordinary sensitivity of that octopus to be able to understand where it is and how to become what it needs to be to survive. And that sensitivity has to tell that octopus about the nature of its surroundings. The octopus has to know that it needs to look like a chunk of coral reef. That octopus needs to know that it should look like the seabed, or that it should turn black and crawl in a small crevice and just look like a hole, look like a big nothingness. So what color is that octopus in a hall of mirrors? That octopus is just octopus colored. That octopus is whatever color it needs to be to see itself. That octopus is just an octopus. And octopus are quite intelligent creatures. They can solve puzzles. They can unscrew jars. They can fit through a small hole. They can survive in all kinds of different surroundings because they observe and they adapt, and they're sensitive, and they can tell what the colors and textures are around them. And that octopus has been there for, I don't know, millions of years. Octopus has been around. They wouldn't be there if that wasn't a perfectly fine kind of creature to be. Just like the bear. The one thing we know about bears is that they've been around for millions of years. And every bear should live the life of a bear, not a beaver, not a walrus, not a rhinoceros beetle, but a bear. The octopus needs to live his life as an octopus, not something else. If it turns into something that looks like a fish, that's because it needs to turn into something to look like a fish to get through that moment. Just like I did, just like I've always been able to do. But that octopus is an octopus. And in a hall of mirrors, that octopus is just octopus colored. That's all it is. Just like I'm Ben, I'm not some other guy. I'm not going to be some different Ben in the future. I'm not going to go back into the past and change myself, change the past so that I would be some different Ben now. That's all I am is Ben. And that's all I need to be. There ain't any reason in the world for me to put any bit of effort at all into being anything else other than what I am right here, right now, in this present moment. Looking at the glaze on the road and the snow on the ground and the rapidly disappearing frost on the trees on this Monday morning in Vermont in December. That's all there is. And that's all I need. It's a beautiful day, Pilgrim. Rosy-fingered Dawn was hiding behind the clouds this morning, but she's there just like she is every day of your life. Let's enjoy it, Pilgrim. It's a sweet day. It's a precious day. It's the only day we're ever going to have. Daylight's burning. Let's get a move on.